Good morning, children. We are here back again with another story of Shakespeare, that is The Winter's Tale. Let's know something about The Winter's Tale. The Winter's Tale is a play by William Shakespeare. It falls into the category of Shakespeare's late plays. Few plays emerged out of the Romance tradition. This play also deals with the loss and gain. It has a happy ending. Talking about the title, some have said that the title suggests the importance of the passage of time or the qualities of the season. In winter, things freeze and wait for the renewal of spring, just as Hermione freezes in anticipation of Leontis's rebirth and renewal at the play's end. Now let's begin the reading. Leontis, king of Sicily, and his queen, the beautiful and virtuous Hermione, once lived in the greatest harmony together. So happy was Leontis in the love of his excellent lady that he had no wish ungratified, except that he sometimes desired to see again and to present to his queen his old companion and schoolfellow Polixenes, king of Bohemia. Leontis and Polixenes were brought up together from their infancy, but, being by the death of their fathers called to reign over their respective kingdoms, they had not met for many years, though they frequently interchanged gifts, letters, and loving embassies. At length, after repeated invitations, Polixenes came from Bohemia to the Sicilian court to make his friend Leontis a visit. At first, this visit gave nothing but pleasure to Leontis. He recommended the friend of his youth to the queen's particular attention, and seemed in the presence of his dear friend and old companion to have his felicity quite completed. They talked over old times, their school days, and their youthful pranks were remembered and recounted to Hermione, who always took a cheerful part in these conversations. So we see, children, that Leontis was the king of Sicily and his queen was Hermione. They lived happily and in harmony too. Leontis was so happy that he wanted to present to his queen his old friend, companion, and schoolfellow Polixenes, who was the king of Bohemia. They were brought up together, but since their fathers died, they had to separate because they had to rule their kingdoms. But still they were in touch through the gifts, letters, and loving embassies. That means a building where the ambassadors meet and work. So at last, Polixenes, he accepted the offer of his friend. Who was the friend? Leontis. Leontis was the friend and came to Sicily. So Leontis and Hermione were very happy. Leontis recommended his friend to the company and attention of his wife, Hermione, to have the felicity, that means happiness, to be completed. They both, that is Leontis and Polixenes, they revived their memories, and Hermione also took great and cheerful interest in all these conversations. So let's continue reading. When, after a long stay, Polixenes was preparing to depart, Hermione, at the desire of her husband, joined her entreaties to this that Polixenes would prolong his visit. And now began this queen's sorrow, good queen's sorrow, for Polixenes, refusing to stay at the request of Leontis, was won over by Hermione's gentle and persuasive words to put off his departure for some weeks longer. Upon this, although Leontis had so long known the integrity and honorable principles of his friend Polixenes, as well as the excellent disposition of his virtuous queen, he was seized with an ungovernable jealousy. Every attention Hermione showed to Polixenes, though by her husband's particular desire, and merely to please him, increased the unfortunate king's jealousy, and from being a loving and a true friend and the best and the fondest of husbands, uh, Leontes became suddenly a savage and a inhuman monster. Sending for Camillo, one of the lords of his court, and telling him of the suspicion he entertained, he commanded him to poison Polixenes. Now, children, we see that Camillo was a very good person. Of course, he was one of the lords of Leontes. But now, when it was time for Polixenes to return back to Bohemia, he told Leontes, told Hermione to request him to wait for a few days more. Actually, initially, Leontes had tried to motivate, that means he urged Polixenes to wait, but that was in vain. And thus began the sorrows of the good queen. And then what happened? Leontes had known that his friend was a man of principles and his wife was a real virtuous queen, that is, a lady full of moral qualities, and he could not bear all this, and his jealousy broke out. So in spite of being the best of the friend and a good husband, Leontes turned to be a savage and inhuman monster. Actually, King Leontes suspected that his wife Hermione was having an affair with Polixenes. He also accused his pregnant wife, that is Hermione, of carrying Polixenes' child. He misjudged his wife and his old friend, and so he orders Camillo, one of his lord, to poison Polixenes. Now we will proceed in the next video. Let's continue reading, children. Camillo was a good man, and he, well knowing that the jealousy of Leontes had not the slightest foundation in truth, instead of poisoning Polixenes, acquainted him with the king and his master's orders, and agreed to escape with him out of the Sicilian court dominions. And Polixenes, with the assistance of Camillo, arrived safe in his own kingdom of Bohemia, where Camillo lived from that time in the king's court and became the chief friend and favorite of Polixenes. The flight of Polixenes enraged the jealous Leontes still more. He went to the queen's apartment, where the good lady was sitting with her little son Mamillus, who was just beginning to tell one of the best stories to amuse his mother, when the king entered, and taking the child away, sent Hermione to prison. Mamillus, though but a very young child, loved his mother tenderly, and when he saw her so dishonored, and found she was taken from him to be put into prison, he took it deeply to heart, and drooped and pined away by slow degrees, losing his appetite and his sleep, till it was thought his grief would kill him. The king, when he had sent his queen to prison, commanded Cleomenes and Dion, two Sicilian lords, to go to Delphos, there to inquire of the oracle at the temple of Apollo if his queen had been unfaithful to him. When Hermione had been a short time in prison, he had a little daughter, and the poor lady received much comfort. She had a little daughter, and the poor lady received much comfort from the sight of a pretty babe, and she said to it, "My poor little prisoner, I am as innocent as you are." So we see, children, moving ahead, we see that Camillo was a very good person. He tried to persuade Leontes not to take such a decision, but on the contrary, it only strengthened the jealous feeling. And Polixenes was very anxious to know, from Camillo. And when Camillo told him about all the plans and the jealous plottings of Leontes, he was very sad. Polixenes notices the changes in Leontes' attitude towards him. When he questions Camillo, the sympathetic lord reveals the plot to poison him. So together they hastily, they run away to Bohemia. Thus, Camillo becomes his chief friend and a favorite of Polixenes. Upon learning, that Polixenes and Camillo have fled, Leontes is more than ever convinced that his guest and his wife are guilty of carrying on an affair. Immediately he went to the queen's apartment, where she was sitting there, just about to listen to his son's story. He snatched his son Mammalus and put Hermione into prison. That was a very sad thing, which Leontes took. Mammalus loved his mother very dearly, very dearly. And when he saw the insults of his mother and her being put into prison, he took all these deeply to his heart. He was very sad and desired for his mother, thus losing his appetite and sleep. He became very weak. And then after that, what did Leontes do? Leontes sent 2 messengers to consult the oracle of Delphus, just to find out whether Hermione was faithful or not, whether Hermione was chaste or not, In prison also, Hermione gave birth to a baby girl who gave much solace and comfort to Hermione. And from heart to heart she declared that her child was also innocent like her. So now, children, with this we come to the end of today's lesson. Stay safe and healthy. Have a blessed day. So that's all for today. Have a good day.